Okay, my name is not important right now. I like to give a couple of shout outs. Two, Nayam Kosher Pizza. Dave's Pizza, Nayam Kosher Pizza in Brooklyn, New York. Dave's Pizza in Lawrence. Traditions in Lawrence. Um, and also Florida. Midman's Home Security Systems and AG Customs. They build tables, cabinets, whatever you need. And today I am speaking with the one and only Zalman Pollock.
How are you? Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to
Where
be
do
here.
you grow? Yeah, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Staten Island, New York. I lived there basically my whole life, obviously, till about eighth grade, which is when I went to high school in Baltimore, actually. And ever since then, I basically never really lived in Staten Island anymore.
Where do you live now?
Now I live in Kew Garden Hills, Queens. Home to
Well,
yeah, it's a great place. It's a great
Um,
place to live.
yeah. Did you go for elementary school?
Elementary, I went to a school called RJJ. It was actually, when I was there, it was called Yeshiva Mir Torah, but everybody there really knew it as RJJ. It was the predominantly more right-wing school in the neighborhood.
Mm. Where did you go for high school?
So I mentioned before, I went to Ner Yisrael in Baltimore. My brothers, a couple of my brothers went there before me, so the path was set, and that's where I ended up for high school.
Yeah. Where did you go for base medrash or did you go to college?
So I went for base medrash. I started in Eretz Yisrael. After 12th grade, I went to Torres Moshe, commonly known as Tomo. I was there
Mm.
for 3 years, which is when I came back actually, and that's where I really started. I started my life in Queens. I ended up in Orach Chaim, which is a big yeshiva in Kiarn Hills. Rabbi Lander is the Rosh Yeshiva, not to be confused with Landers, which is another yeshiva in Queens. But I did actually, it's confusing. A lot of people get this confused. I was in Orach Chaim, which is the Rosh Yeshiva Rabbi Lander, but at night I went to Landers, which is the Rosh Yeshiva Rabbi Sachs.
Yeah. What did you do after college?
I started working. I mean, after I was in school for accounting. I got my accounting degree, but while I was in yeshiva, while I was in school, I was in Kolo. I was when I got married, I was learning while doing college, and then once I graduated, I went on to work in the healthcare field.
Did you work there now in the house care field?
Yes, I started in Centers Healthcare, really their home healthcare division, Alpine. And then I went. I was there for a year. Then I was working in Greenwich by a nursing home for 3 years. Then in Brooklyn by a nursing home for 3 years. And now currently I work in an office in Brooklyn where we do not nursing homes, but substance and alcohol addiction treatment centers.
Mm. Um, at what age did you start singing?
So this is the famous question. I I started singing from the time I was a little kid. I think I always felt that I wanted to sing. It was always something that was very important to me. I come from a pretty musical family. Our Shabbos table was always filled with Zmiros. But I myself took myself a little bit more seriously than maybe most, and um, I decided that I wanted to make it more something professional. So I joined the Miami Boys Choir when I was either 8 or 9 years old.
Um, how many albums do you have out now?
So of my own, I don't have any albums per se. I have a few songs out there. I think I have about 6 songs that I've released on Spotify and different music platforms, 24/6. But as a part of the Miami Boys Choir, I was a part of, I don't know, probably 5 albums. The biggest one that I
Oh,
was a part of was Rebel.
you didn't put any albums out yet.
No, I don't know that I'm going to. It's not something that I specifically want to do. I like releasing singles.
Oh, only the singles. Um,
Yeah.
what is your favorite song of all your singles?
My favorite one, um, I think my favorite one is Rifa'inu. Rifa'inu is a song that means a lot to me. It was written at a very vulnerable time in my life and even in the life of many. I wrote it during COVID when everything was going, you know, that way in 2020. But at the same time, my mother was very sick. And she unfortunately ended up passing away, but I wrote that song with her in mind. So to me, that's the one that means the most to me.
Um, what do you do when you are not singing?
So, like I mentioned, I work, but if we're talking about if we're talking about hobbies, I love to play sports. That's my other passion.
Uh, I yeah, you like playing baseball. You like you're in a league.
Yeah, so I love all sports, baseball, basketball, football. I'm
Yeah,
actually in a league for all three. So we play a lot of ball.
yeah. Um, who did you get inspired by to start singing?
Who would I get inspired by to get start singing? It's a great question. Um, I think when I was growing up, the inspirations were always like Mordechai Ben David, Avram Fried. Um, but if I had to put like one that like one artist out there that probably meant the most to me was probably A.B. Rottenberg. I always loved his music, connected with his music. But truly, all these artists out there are amazing. Leif Dahar albums, Shell's albums, all these things that I grew up with. Um, these songs were staples in our home. So
Yeah. Are you coming out with a new song?
I actually have one coming out hopefully very soon. Um, in the next week or so, hopefully together with Yosef Gestetner. Um, I'm hoping that we're gonna release something together in the next week or so. And other than that, I'm working on writing a new one.
Um, at what age did you start performing live?
So in the Miami Boys Choir, I would say that I was 8 or 9 years old when I first went on stage for the first time. It was a thrill.
Um,
But
yeah.
even before that, like I think I was doing even before that in like camp, day camp choirs. But I think the real first one was Miami Boys Choir.
Um, who did you sing with so who did you sing with, and did you perform with them?
So there's been a bunch, and obviously through the choir days. But let's put the choir days aside. With
Yeah.
all those concerts that we did, more recently, I've sung with Joey Newcomb, who's a good friend of mine.
Huh?
Um, I've sung together with Alvin Freed. I did I remember distinctly there was a moment that because Alvin Freed, like I said before, was one of my biggest inspirations, and I always loved his songs. By a Hatsala barbecue when he was performing, I got up to sing with him, and I think to me that was awesome.
Yeah. Um, do you have any funny stories that happened to you by a show or a wedding?
By a show or by a wedding? Trying to think. I mean, there's always, yeah, definitely by a concert once. Um, I could say this. This is from when I was a kid. Um, the uh, the microphone when I went up to sing a solo was just off. So the music was going, everything was very loud, but I was trying to sing into the mic, and it just nothing came out. But I think even more recently, I was doing a Lag BaOmer concert for a show in Queens called Ashivenu, and everyone was having a great time. Everyone's jumping up, having a great time, and all of a sudden, the whole power shut off. So if you could
Well, that
imagine,
would, yeah.
yeah, you can imagine it, like 500 people there, all like everyone's dancing, and all of a sudden everything just goes off. So we just made the best of it we could. We put the mics down, we just jumped into the crowd and started singing and dancing with them, and it ended up creating probably one of the nicer moments of the night.
Um, what words inspiration do you have for the role?
Words of inspiration. I would say never give up. I believe in that very strongly, that if you're passionate about something and you know, you feel that you want to give a part of yourself to the world, there's a lot of opportunity out there for somebody to feel like he's less and that he's not getting there, and it takes time, and it could be sometimes very hard to keep going. But when you're passionate about something, you never give up. You keep plugging, you keep going, and that I think is what helps keep me going, and what helps keeps a lot of singers going who have, I'm sure, at one point in their careers, and really with anything, that if you at different times you could feel down and you could feel like it's not going the way you want it to, but if you believe in it and you're passionate about it, you gotta just keep at it. Just gotta keep at it. Joey put out that song, um, "You Fall Down, You Get Back Up," right, to the tune of the Berditch Vernigan. It's something it's something
Yeah,
that resonates very deeply. When you fall down, you got to get back up. Famously, more for I mean, Sheva Yipol Tzadik, right? That's where those words come from. But it was said in Batman too, right? You know,
yeah,
why do we fall down, Mr. Wayne? So we can get back up.
yeah. Um, thank you for letting me interview you, and have a rest of have a r- good rest of your day.
Thank you
Good
so much.
rest.
Thanks for having
Okay.
me on.